My boss looked me in the eye the morning we closed a $34 million deal and told me I was getting nothing. No bonus, no slice, not even a line in the email, just a pat on the back and a reminder to keep my head down. I don't know what kind of person you have to be to say that to someone who hasn't seen a full weekend in 6 months, but I can tell you exactly what kind of person I was in that moment. Tired, wired on bad coffee, and suddenly very, very awake. The deal was my life for half a year. Mid-market investment firm, not Wall Street, but ambitious enough to pretend we were. A tech client trying to sell a majority stake in their company and not tank their reputation in the process. 34 million on the table, half a dozen buyer groups sniffing around, everyone paranoid about leaks and valuation drops. I was the one in every late-night call, the one redlining contracts at 1:30 a.m., the one talking the founder down when he wanted to walk away because some buyer made an offhand comment about his product being replaceable. My boss, Andrew, was technically lead on the account, which mostly meant his name sat at the top of the slide deck while my fingerprints were on every page. He showed up for the big theatrics, opening meetings, closing meetings, the moments when you shake hands in a too-cold boardroom and pretend the coffee isn't terrible. The rest of the time it was me, a junior analyst, and a shared drive full of documents that looked the same until you noticed the one clause that could kill the whole thing. The first 3 months, I barely noticed how much I was covering for him. It's easy to justify anything if you tell yourself you're paying your dues. So when he texted 10 minutes before a client call, running late, run point without me, I did. When he skipped the site visit because the school called about my kid, I nodded and told myself I'd want that kind of flexibility someday. When he forwarded me angry emails from buyers with, "Handle this," I did. And I did it well enough that they calmed down and stayed. Then the numbers started to get real. Valuations lining up, buyer interest solidifying, term sheets coming back with less red ink each round. The founder, Dan, stopped sending emails to Andrew and team and started sending them to me directly. "Grant, what do you think? Grant, can we push this clause? Grant, do you believe this is the right buyer?" That was new. That felt like something I had earned. 2 weeks before closing, I was living on black coffee and fried rice from the place downstairs that knew my order by the sound of my voice. We'd finally herded all the cats into the same room, buyers, seller, lawyers, and hammered out the last ugly details. The final numbers landed on a Tuesday night, 34.2 million. Dan called me at 11:47 p.m., sounding more sober than I'd heard him in months. "You did it, man," he said. "I know Andrew's the big name, but between you and me, I know who got us here." I laughed it off because that's what you do. "We both did," I said. "Just get some sleep before you sign your life away tomorrow." But I didn't sleep. I lay there staring at the cracks in my ceiling, doing the math in my head. We had a bonus structure. For deals over 20 million, the lead got a chunky percentage, but key contributors got a meaningful slice too. Not life-changing, but enough to knock out my credit card debt and maybe stop checking my balance before I bought groceries. After 6 months of living in the office, that felt fair. Not generous, just fair. The morning of the signing, the office felt different. Quiet, but with that fake calm you get before a storm. People walked faster without looking like they were walking faster. The conference room had been booked for hours, catering set up with sandwiches no one would taste. I watched red signatures appear one by one on the DocuSign dashboard. Buyers, seller, legal. The progress bar inched toward the end. When the last checkmark popped up, an email hit everyone's inbox. Subject line, "Closed Horizon Tech divestiture." From Andrew. I opened it. A short paragraph about a significant milestone for the firm. A sentence thanking the leadership team for their support. A line about the privilege of advising Horizon Tech on their journey. No names, no grant, not even a generic special thanks to the team who worked tirelessly behind the scenes. Just his signature and the usual company disclaimer. I was still staring at it when my phone buzzed. Internal extension. Andrew. Got a minute? He asked, like we were about to talk about paper stock. His office had the kind of view you only get once you've convinced other people to do your late nights. River, skyline, a slice of the stadium. On his shelf, there was a framed photo of his family on a beach somewhere, and a deal tombstone from a project we'd done last year that he'd mostly blown up and I'd mostly saved. He didn't offer me a seat. That was the first tell. Big morning, he said, smiling like a politician. You did good work on this one. Thanks, I said. I stayed standing. He leaned back, laced his fingers over his stomach. So, I wanted to quickly set expectations about the bonus structure before rumors start. I knew that tone, the one people use when they're about to stretch the word fair until it snaps. Okay, I said. The partners and I talked, he went on, and given the size of the deal and the visibility it brings to the firm, the decision is that the leadership pool will handle the performance upside this year. We need to keep the optics consistent. For a second I thought I'd misheard him. The leadership pool, I repeated. You mean partners only? He nodded. Exactly. You're salaried, you're well compensated, you're on track. But this kind of deal, this is why people take the risk of sitting in my chair. That's the trade-off. I felt something cold settle in my chest. So I get... What exactly? He didn't flinch. You get experience. You get having this on your track record. You get the trust I'm extending by letting you run point on more of these. I could feel the blood rising in my face, but my voice stayed flat. The comp plan says key contributors on deals over 20 million get a percentage. He shrugged, just enough to make me want to hit something. The comp plan also says discretionary. It's not automatic. In this situation, well, sometimes we have to prioritize retention where it matters most. Retention, I repeated. For you. He gave me that patronizing half-smile I'd seen him use on clients he thought were being naive. Grant, don't be emotional. I'm telling you how it is so you're not disappointed when the numbers hit. You're young. You'll have plenty of chances to make money here. But this one, you're not getting anything from the deal. Nothing. He said it like he was doing me a favor by being blunt. I stared at him. 6 months of canceled weekends. 6 months of waking up with my laptop still open on my chest. 6 months of telling my sister I couldn't make it to her kid's birthday because we were at a critical stage. All boiled down to, you get experience. I could feel the argument forming in my throat. The words about fairness, contracts, what I'd actually done versus what he'd shown up for. I could see myself raising my voice, slamming the door, making a scene that people would talk about in the kitchen for a week. Instead, I swallowed it. Okay, I said. He blinked, like he'd been bracing for a fight and didn't know what to do without one. I'm glad you understand, he said quickly. This is how the big leagues work. You keep your head down, keep delivering, and it pays off. Long term. Trust me. He already had his email open again before I turned to the door. On the way back to my desk, everything sounded louder. The hum of the air conditioning, the clack of keyboards, the fake laugh of someone pretending they were thrilled to be on their 4th Zoom of the day. My inbox kept filling with internal congratulations I wasn't mentioned in and calendar invites for deal debriefs I suddenly didn't care about. I sat down, opened the shared folder where every draft, every spreadsheet, every late-night note from this deal lived, and just looked at it. Row after row of work with my initials in the corner, email threads where I'd fixed messes Andrew had created, call notes where the client had said, let's ask Grant. For the first time since I joined the firm, I didn't feel lucky to be there. I felt stupid. He hadn't just taken the money. He'd bet on something bigger, that I'd nod, swallow it, and show up just as hard on the next one because that's how the game works. And sitting there, staring at my screen, I realized the only thing more dangerous than a boss who thinks you're replaceable is a boss who's completely sure you won't do anything when he proves it. I thought the worst part was hearing my boss say I'd get nothing. Turns out, the worst part was what happened after. The quiet shift in the office, the kind you only notice when you've suddenly fallen off the pedestal you never realized you were on. People acted normal, but not around me. Conversations slowed when I walked by. Doors closed a beat faster. Even the intern, who used to ask me 100 questions a day, now triple-checked before approaching me, like I'd suddenly become radioactive. 2 days after the deal closed, Andrew sent out another firm-wide email. This one was longer, more polished. A recap of the transaction, key achievements, what it meant for the firm's growth. And right in the middle of it, under strategic leadership, he wrote, "Special recognition to the senior team for steering this complex transaction." The senior team, meaning him. Always him. I was listed in the last paragraph, grouped with operations and compliance, thanks to all support staff who assisted throughout the process. Support staff, I stared at the screen until the words blurred. At lunch, I sat with my coworker Sam like I always did. He picked at his salad and tried to keep things neutral, but eventually he cleared his throat. "You okay, man?" I didn't answer immediately. "Did you see the email?" Sam grimaced. "Yeah, it wasn't great." "Wasn't great?" I echoed. "That's one way to put it." He lowered his voice. "Look, I'm going to be straight with you. Andrew's been talking, keeping it vague, but he's telling people he carried the deal, that you're not ready to lead on big numbers yet, that he had to fix your calls with the client." I let the fork fall onto the table. "He said that?" Sam nodded once. "I don't believe him, but people hear things. People hear things. People choose what to believe." That night, I stayed late in the office because sitting alone in my empty apartment felt worse. Around 8:45 p.m., walking past the glass-walled conference room, I saw Andrew inside on a video call. I wasn't trying to eavesdrop. I just froze because I recognized the face on the screen. Dan, the founder of the company we'd just advised. Andrew had his back to me, but his voice carried. "Listen," he was saying, "we handled the heavy lifting on our side. If we continue working together, I can make sure your post-transaction needs get priority. We can arrange something on the side for that." Something on the side? I felt the air go out of my lungs. It wasn't explicit, but it didn't have to be. Dan looked uncomfortable. "We already discussed fees." "This isn't fees," Andrew interrupted smoothly. "This is appreciation. Between us." I stepped back before he saw me, my pulse hammering. Whatever this was, it wasn't standard, and it sure as hell wasn't company policy. That should have been the end of it. I should have gone home, slept, pretended I didn't hear anything. But when I finally sat at my desk, I saw an email pop into the shared inbox. It was mistagged and landed in the wrong folder. The subject line was a client's name. I opened it. A thread between Andrew and one of the buyer groups. The last message from him read, "If we expedite this, I can ensure certain reports never reach the broader team. Let's discuss compensation." I didn't breathe for a full 5 seconds. Then I forwarded it to my personal email. No commentary. No edits. Just clean evidence. And the strangest part, I didn't feel angry. I felt awake. The next morning at the weekly team meeting, Andrew walked in like he was arriving at a press conference. People laughed at his jokes a little louder than usual. He started reviewing the quarter, talking about ownership, professional maturity, leadership presence. All the corporate buzzwords people like him use to justify taking credit for things they barely touched. Then he looked right at me. "And in terms of development," he said, tapping the table with his pen, "some of us still need to understand that being near a big deal doesn't mean we're ready to run one." A couple of people glanced at me. Andrew smiled like he'd said something helpful. I didn't blink. I didn't move. I didn't give him the reaction he wanted. But it hit me in the chest like a fist. Not because it was untrue, but because it was calculated. He wanted to paint me as the junior, the underling, the grateful apprentice. That way, when the bonus numbers came out, everyone would think he was right. After the meeting, I went back to my desk. My screen lit up with a calendar invitation. Performance review check-in. Andrew Typecast. Grant. 2 days from now. Perfect timing for a controlled narrative. Around 3, I got a message from Dan, the founder. Just one line. Can we talk privately this week? My stomach tightened. Something in me knew this wasn't about updates or paperwork. But that was just the beginning. That evening, walking out of the office, Andrew caught up with me at the elevators. "You seem tense today," he said lightly. "Don't let things get to you. Some people learn the hard way that gratitude goes further than ambition." I looked at him, and for the first time, I saw him clearly. Not as a mentor or a gatekeeper, but as a man who built his entire reputation on other people's labor and expected applause for it. "I hear you," I said quietly. He smiled, thinking he'd won. But that night, sitting at my kitchen table with 2 forwarded emails and every call log from the last 6 months, something inside me shifted. A small break, a clean one. That night, I stopped being the hero who tried to save the team, because it finally hit me. Some people never wanted saving. They wanted ownership, and I wasn't planning to hand it to them anymore. The morning everything snapped didn't look dramatic. No slammed doors, no raised voices, just the hum of the office AC and the quiet shuffle of people pretending they weren't watching me. I walked in at 8:52 a.m., placed my bag under the desk, logged in, and saw a message from HR. Reminder, performance check-in today, 11:30 a.m. The email had the kind of fake warmth that always hides a blade. I already knew what Andrew was planning. Shape the narrative. Cement the story. Grant isn't ready. Grant is emotional. Grant can't be trusted with big accounts. Set the stage so when the bonus pool came out, no one questioned anything. I leaned back in my chair and exhaled slowly. The documents I'd collected over the last few days, emails, forwarded threads, logs, were sitting in a folder on a flash drive in my jacket. I hadn't planned revenge. Not exactly. But once you see a man stealing credit, manipulating clients, offering side compensation, and bearing reports, it stops being about your pride. It becomes about something cleaner, heavier, and more dangerous. Truth. Still, I wasn't ready for what happened next. At 10:04 a.m., I got a text from Dan, the founder. Conference room C now. No punctuation, no small talk, just urgency. I walked down the hall, passing people who pretended not to look at me. When I entered, Dan was already inside, hands clasped, jaw tense. He didn't offer a handshake. "Close the door," he said. I did. He tapped his phone. "I got a message from Andrew this morning," he began. "He claims there are outstanding issues with the audit that need to be handled discreetly. He also asked me if I wanted the same arrangement after the sale." His eyes rose to mine, sharp, searching. "Grant, is this how your firm operates?" I felt something in my chest coil tight. "No," I said. "That's not how he operates. Show me." I'd expected that. I pulled the flash drive from my pocket, opened the files on the conference room screen, and let the evidence speak. The mistagged email offering to hide reports. The message to the buyer group suggesting compensation. The late-night call Dan didn't know I overheard. Dan read every line, slowly, carefully. Then he sat back in his chair, silent, and then silence, the kind that means something's gone wrong. When he finally spoke, his voice was low, controlled. "I trusted your firm because of you, not him. I didn't know it yet, but that decision would cost him everything." The room felt colder. "What do you want to do?" I asked. "I want the truth in front of the people who write his checks," he said. "Can you confirm this isn't all you have?" I met his gaze. "There's more." He nodded once sharply. "Good. Send it to me. And to your CEO." My pulse kicked. "You want me to send it?" "You collected it," he said. "And you're the only one I trust isn't playing a game." When I walked out of that conference room, the office felt different, like the pressure in the building had shifted a few degrees. I sat at my desk, attached the files, wrote a 3-sentence message, factual, emotionless, and hit send. 10 minutes later, the CEO called me directly. "Grant, my office. Bring everything." He never calls analysts. Ever. I stepped into his glass-walled corner office, and he closed the door with a softness that felt more threatening than a slam. "Sit," he said. For the next 20 minutes, he read every document without speaking. His expression never changed, but his foot tapped under the desk. When he finished, he placed the papers down neatly. "How long has this been happening?" "I don't know," I answered. "I only know what I saw." "And you're sure these weren't misunderstandings?" "Read the language," I said quietly. "These aren't misunderstandings." He exhaled, rubbed his temples, and reached for his phone. "Stay here." He left the office. I stared at the skyline through the window, the city stretching out in quiet grids. I expected fear or anxiety, but all I felt was neutrality. A strange, steady calm. The kind that comes after months of being twisted into a shape you never agreed to. The door opened again. "Grant," the CEO said, "go back to your desk. Do not speak to Andrew. Do not engage with anyone about this. We're initiating an internal review effective immediately." My heartbeat punched once, hard. "When will he know?" I asked. "When we're done," he replied. "Not before." But 30 minutes later, Andrew knew something was wrong anyway, because chaos always leaves a scent. He walked into the bullpen with stiff shoulders, fake smiles, slightly off-center. He checked his phone every 10 seconds. People noticed. People whispered. He glanced at me twice, quick, sharp looks, like he could sense something was shifting under his feet. At 2:11 p.m., HR walked into his office and closed the door behind them. At 2:37 p.m., the CFO joined them. At 2:52 p.m., the CEO stepped inside. Doors don't close that many times unless someone's world is shrinking. I kept working. At 4:03 p.m., a firm-wide email hit everyone's inbox. Effective immediately, Andrew Miller is relieved of his responsibilities pending internal review. It was short, brutal, surgical. People gasped. Someone dropped a pen. Someone whispered, "Holy shit." I didn't move. I just read it twice and then minimized the window. But inside, quietly, privately, I felt something unclench. Not triumph, not pettiness, not revenge, just a clean, quiet correction. They thought I was gone. I wasn't. That evening, while shutting down my computer, I saw another message appear. "Grant, please come by tomorrow morning. We need to discuss next steps regarding the Horizon Tech account." Signed by the CEO. No emotion, no hint, just instruction. But I knew. Something was shifting again, this time in my direction. The next morning, the office felt like a hotel lobby after a fire alarm. Too bright, too quiet, everyone pretending nothing had happened. Andrew's nameplate was still on his door, but the blinds were closed and his chair sat empty. His inbox icon blinked on his monitor like it was waiting for a hand that wouldn't touch it again. At 9 a.m. sharp, I knocked on the CEO's door. "Come in," he called. He was at his table, not behind his desk, which already told me this wasn't a perfunctory scolding. A folder lay in front of him. Dan, the founder, sat on the other side of the table in a perfectly pressed shirt that still looked like he hadn't slept. "Sit, Grant," the CEO said. I did. My palms were dry. That surprised me. "We completed the initial review last night," he began. "There were more issues than what you brought forward. Your documentation made it impossible to ignore them." Dan looked at me, steady. "He tried to sell me peace of mind," he said quietly. "Twice. I told myself I was imagining it. You didn't let me keep lying." I didn't know what to say to that, so I didn't say anything. The CEO opened the folder, slid a single page toward me. It wasn't legalese. No threats. Just a clean summary. "Effective yesterday," he said. "Andrew is suspended without pay. As of this morning, he has been asked to resign. He will not receive a bonus. He will not receive severance. We're reporting certain actions to the regulator. That's our side of this. He paused, watched my face, maybe waiting for satisfaction or gloating or whatever people expect when the villain trips over his own ego. I just nodded. Okay. And this, he continued, is the client side. He glanced at Dan. I asked him a simple question, Dan said. Do I want to keep working with a firm that protects a man like that, or with the person who actually did his job? He folded his hands. I chose the second option, he said. If you're willing, I want you as my lead advisor going forward. The account stays with the firm, but I'm putting in writing that I work with you, not a title. My brain took a second to process that. You want me as lead? I asked. Yes, he said. You earned it, and I'm tired of pretending I don't see who's actually in the room with me. There it was, not fireworks, not a movie speech, just a simple, solid shift. The CEO leaned back. We're restructuring the team around Horizon Tech and a few other key accounts, he said. We'd like you to head the new mid-market group. Title bump, pay adjustment, bonus structure that reflects reality, not politics. You'll have to manage people instead of just documents. You up for that? For a second, I saw it all at once. Every weekend I'd lost to someone else's ego, every late-night call I'd taken from clients, while Andrew sent me screenshots from hotel bars, every time I'd told myself to be patient, and now this simple, clean, almost boring. Yes, I said, I am. That's what I needed to hear. He stood. So did I. He offered his hand. Don't make me regret trusting the person who brought this to light. I won't, I said, but I'm going to need some guardrails. He raised an eyebrow. Such as? I don't want my name buried, I said. If I do the work, I want the credit. If the team does the work, I want the team named. If we screw up, I'll wear it. But I'm not interested in shadowing someone else's reputation again. He gave a small, genuine smile. Fair enough. Put your expectations in an email. I like things in writing. Dan's mouth twitched. Seems to run in his blood, he muttered. I walked out of that office feeling... taller isn't the right word. Not richer either, though the numbers would change. Just aligned. Like the floor finally matched the angle my head had been tilting toward for months. The internal review dragged on for another week. We weren't given details, but offices like ours leak in whispers. There were other emails, other arrangements, old conversations that didn't look so harmless when someone dug them up. Andrew stopped coming in. No goodbye, no explanation. Just an empty chair, a disappearing calendar, and a short, firm-wide note one Friday afternoon. Andrew Miller has decided to pursue other opportunities. Everyone knew what that meant. No one said it out loud. I never spoke to him again. No dramatic confrontation in the lobby. No final, "you were wrong about me" speech. The closest I got was seeing him from a distance 2 months later, across the street near a coffee shop our people used. He saw me first, froze, then pretended to be busy on his phone. For a second, I considered walking over. Ask him if it was worth it. The bonuses, the side deals, the titles, if it felt good for as long as he thought it would. Then the light changed, the crosswalk beeped, and the moment passed. I turned the other way. Some questions only exist to drag you backwards. At work, my days changed shape. Instead of being the guy who handled things, I was the one people brought problems to openly. I built a small team, Sam, the intern who never stopped asking questions, and 2 hires, who didn't care about office theater as long as the math made sense. We set one rule early. Nobody steals credit. Nobody hides blame. If we win together. If we lose with our names on the slide. It wasn't noble. It was just clean. The first quarterly results with the new structure came out in a bare-bones PDF. No fluff, no inspirational quotes, just numbers, rankings, brief commentary. Our group was in the top 3 for revenue and client retention. At the bottom of the page, in smaller letters, I saw something I'd never seen before. Lead, Grant Lewis, Team S. Patel, L. Ross, E. Santos. All the names, no one erased, no one downgraded to support staff. That night, I walked past the building cleaning crew with my jacket over my shoulder and my laptop actually shut. Outside, the city noise felt less like background static and more like a thermostat I could turn down when I crossed the threshold of my apartment. At home, I did something stupidly simple. I opened my banking app and looked at the new numbers. The bump from the promotion, the adjusted bonus. It didn't make me rich. It didn't erase the months I'd already burned. But it made one thing very clear. I wasn't working on promises anymore. I was working on terms I could see. I called my sister and told her I was coming to my nephew's birthday this year. No excuses. No critical stage. She laughed and asked if I was feeling okay. I told her I was feeling better than okay. A few weeks later, Dan invited me to his company's new office. A smaller space, humbler, but humming with a kind of energy money can't buy. We walked past whiteboards full of messy diagrams and bad jokes. "You look different," he said. "How so?" "You look like a guy who finally remembered it's his life," he answered. We finalized his post-sale strategy in an afternoon. No side arrangements, no quiet favors. Just a clear plan with clear fees and signatures where they belonged. On the way out, he stopped me. "You know," he said, "he told me once that you were too idealistic to last in this business." I raised an eyebrow. "Did he?" "Yeah," Dan shrugged. "Funny thing, though. Idealism didn't cost me $34 million. His shortcuts almost did." He clapped my shoulder and went back inside. Doors closed behind him. I walked to the train with a strange, steady warmth in my chest. Back at the office, my nameplate sat on a door that used to belong to someone else. The title under it was different now. People knocked before they came in. Not because they were afraid, because they knew there was work happening inside that room that touched their lives. Sometimes I stay late, not because I'm terrified of being replaced, but because I like the quiet. I straighten the reports on my desk. I lock the file cabinet. I set my keys on the corner where I can see them. Every now and then, someone new will ask me what happened to the guy whose name is still on a few old deals. "He made his choices," I say. "The invoices showed up." They nod, half understanding, and move on. If there's any revenge in all of this, it's not in watching him fall. It's in the absence of him in my head. No imaginary arguments. No fantasy speeches. No late-night reruns of what I should have said in his office that morning. Just silence. I make my coffee the way I like it now. I answer my emails without scanning them for someone else's name at the top. I sign my work, I stand in front of it when it's questioned, and I don't chase approval from people who've already told me what they think I'm worth. My boss told me I'd get nothing from the $34 million deal. He was wrong. I got a line I won't cross again. I got a team that knows I see them. I got clients who call me by name because I showed up when nobody else did. And most importantly, I got something that doesn't fit on a balance sheet. The quiet, stubborn knowledge that I will never again help someone else build a throne, just so they can tell me I'm lucky to be allowed to sweep around it.